Should CTR have a performance mode? Let's talk about it. What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a new video for CTR. Okay, so I was approached by a moderator from the Crash Team Racing Reddit, and they asked me to look into the subject. So, should CTR have a performance mode? Well, some of you might be wondering, what exactly is a performance mode? Here's a quick crash course for those who don't know. It's a style of gameplay that some games actually allow you to choose. See, most games that have come out for this generation of consoles have run at 30 frames per second. If you're not sure what this means, think of a still frame of a game. For every second that passes, there are 30 frames of images that have passed. However, 30 frames is no longer the only option you have. Games now are hitting 60, 120, and even 240 frames per second on PCs. The more frames there are per second, the smoother movement and gameplay is. So, like I had said, a lot of games this generation ran at 30 frames per second in a time where 120 to 200 frames per second is possible on PCs. One of the main reasons that consoles this generation were only running at about 30 frames per second is because there was a huge focus on resolution and not so much frame rate for the consoles. Basically speaking, the higher the resolution, the more clear the image and colors are. This helps when the image is displayed on a bigger screen, because the bigger the screen, the more you're going to see pixels and rough edges. That's why people are buying 4K TVs, because it allows you to see a better image beyond a regular 1080p. However, the consoles this generation weren't quite up to snuff to be able to handle these settings. Well, at least the base PS4 and Xbox One couldn't. That's why we had the mid-generation upgrades of the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. But even they have a hard time being able to do proper 4K resolution and or 60 frames per second. For example, Medieval on the PS4 Pro ran at 60 frames per second, but definitely had issues with a lot of frame rate drops. Now, people argue all the time which is better, resolution or frame rate. Essentially, a high quality image versus a smoother movement. Most people that play racing games think that frame rate is better because the images are going by so fast, it's already hard to see the resolution. But sadly, Crash Team Racing is running at 30 frames per second with motion blur to try and smooth out frames and simulate a 60 frames per second feel, a similar technique used to the console release of the Spyro Reignited trilogy. So what exactly is a performance mode? It actually is an option that gives a person a choice of what they prefer, frame rate or graphics. Performance would be an option to make Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled run at 60 frames per second, but at the cost of the quality of the graphics. This would give the player an option of what they would like. Now, some of you might be curious what Crash Team Racing in 60 frames per second would look like. Well, luckily for us, someone had modded their Switch and was able to get the game to run at 60 frames per second. Well, as close as the little Switch can go. Pixel Locos Gameplays made this video and demonstrating what racing in 60 frames per second could look like, or at least an idea of what it could be. Take a look. Now, this is on the Switch and is a mod, so obviously it's not going to be the smoothest thing you've ever seen. But see how great the game looks? I'll leave a link to the original video in the description below so that you can see it in its entirety. Again, this is on the already downgraded Switch port. Imagine what the game would look like even on a base PS4 with this frame rate. I would love a performance mode for CTR done properly and optimized to run smooth 60 frames per second at the expense of graphics. I find with racing games having 60 frames is really nice, and I think it works for CTR very well with its visual effects and fast pace. But What would you think? Should CTR have a performance mode? What would you use, a resolution mode or the performance? Comment below and let me know. A huge thank you to all those who support the channel through Patreon and being a sponsor on the channel. If you'd like to help it out, check out the links in the description below, where you can buy some CGE merch or become a Patreon. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming and nostalgic content. Thank you so much everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video.